and long hours is very frustrating. Why are they chosen and not me? And I can tell you why. It's not that the CEO is bad. Yes, there are exceptions to the rule. But in reality, the big problem is that we many times fail to understand how to get noticed. And it is our job every day when we are working to get noticed, not just to complete tasks. And we forget that. We're in accounting, we're doing payroll, I'm doing my payroll, I finished it on time, I'm good. No, get noticed. And I will give you that. I will give you the tools to do that. Sorry, it's a bit, I'm not that smart. Okay, so elaborating a little bit more, CEOs. You have some common traits for the most typical CEOs, and you also have traits of the very successful CEOs, at least what I have seen from my experience. Yes, to be a CEO, you need to be intelligent. You have to be smart. You have to know what you're doing. If you don't have certain level of intelligence, it's very unlikely that you will make it to a CEO role unless you are an entrepreneur that came up with a great idea, in which case you're likely intelligent. High energy. CEOs are people with a lot of energy. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort to lead people. And this is important for you to know because you don't want to waste CEOs' times. If you want to be noticed, you want to give him always solutions to problems that will make their lives easier. Persistence and patience. Typical CEO. Not everything happens the first time. You have to be persistent, you have to continue, and you have to be patient and understand that there are factors sometimes outside of your world that you cannot control. It's what I call the circle of control, and this is important for you guys as well. There is things that you can immediately affect and influence. There are things that you can change. Those are the things that you need to focus on. Don't waste time in your career on the things that you cannot control. Don't waste time gossiping about other people. As a matter of fact, I hear some people laughing about it, but this is one of the biggest challenges that people have today incorporate. They waste time putting effort on things that are not important. Your effort should be on continuing to learn and to get noticed, and of course to achieve your basic goals. Courage. Great communication skills. And again, this is part of why I recommend to go to an MBA and why I recommend to read. Communication is extremely important for a CEO. If a CEO cannot communicate properly, he cannot pass the message and people will not be able to follow. Equally important, because CEOs can communicate well, if you go to them and not communicate well, you will likely not have their attention. So it is very important that you learn how to communicate effectively, to pass the message and deliver it properly. Many times it's not what you say, but how you say it. But to be a highly successful CEO are those CEOs who understand that people are the most important asset of their organization. And they understand the importance of teamwork. And because CEOs understand the importance of teamwork, they're going to be paying attention and noticing who are the people in the organization that are doing a good teamwork and that are working to maximize the potential of an entire team to give the best possible results in the organization. So teamwork is extremely important. And again, to reinforce it, that's why you need to read. That's why you need to continue your education if you can. Now, we talk about people. But how do we get noticed? We'll get there. Now, the first thing is, why should you care? I think I've made it relatively clear. But again, if you are not getting noticed, you are not going to get promoted. It was several years ago when I started my career in the US in an organization called Baker Hughes, where I thought of myself, of course, maybe I was biased, but I thought I was the best technical analyst in that team. And I was working 12 and 13 and 14 hours every day. And I was quite confident that when the promotion came, I was going to be the person promoted. And I wasn't. And it hit me really hard. And I decided not only to go for further education, because I made a decision that this would never happen to me again, but also I had the opportunity to meet several counselors, professional counselors, who, through their advice, made me understand that the mistake I was making was I wasn't getting noticed. I was working really hard, but I was not doing what it took to call that CEO's attention, to make sure that the top management team of the company was talking about me to that CEO. And therefore, I wasn't growing in the organization. And this is, sadly, the mistake that you see today from 90% of people. Working really hard. I have been here in Malaysia for 11 years. I have worked as a CIO of Bumi Armada. I am advising Telecom Malaysia. And I can tell you one thing. I have seen a lot of brilliant people here, a lot of technical skills. But I've seen a lot of failure in people selling themselves. And I think this is a huge problem for Malaysia that needs to be resolved. And that's why it is so important that you guys understand that one of the biggest key to your success is how you will be perceived at the top. Not only by completing your tasks, but by showing initiative and showing that you have skills, ability, and the willingness to continue to grow. Now, let's start with the fun part. How do we set ourselves apart? It sounds all nice and dandy, but now let's talk about the true advice. How do we actually get noticed? Correct? So I'm going to share 8 things to start with that will get you noticed. And I can tell you today that, again, I cannot give you an MBA in 30 minutes. But this will give you, hopefully, a small part of the skills that you will learn on an MBA and the seed to several things that will put you ahead of the competitors when you get in that professional environment. The first one, very simple. Speak to the CEO in terms they relate to. What does that mean? I'll give you an example. When I joined Bumi Armada, 8 years ago, wow, I'm getting old, huh? 8 years ago, as a CIO, I came, CIO, I'm the technical arm of the company, and I decided that I wanted Bumi Armada to be the first oil and gas company in Asia Pacific to move to cloud computing. Well, that sounds normal today. 8 years ago, it was something unheard of for an oil and gas company. So I went and I did a huge presentation to the board of directors and the CEO of the company. And I gave them the best potential technical description of cloud computing to that board. And I was so sure that it would be approved that I came with this extremely pride and almost arrogance to that meeting. And at the end of the meeting, I was almost kicked out of that room. And I had it really hard because I had worked on that presentation for an entire week. And then I realized, after going back to my books and my notes, that I made a huge mistake. I was talking to them on how great redundancy cloud computing is and the connectivity and the servers. But the CEO doesn't care about that. He cares about the results that I'm going to give them. What he cared about is, how am I going to improve profitability in the company? How am I going to increase efficiencies? And how am I going to enable them to gain a competitive advantage? And this lesson was a very hard lesson, but I hope it's something that you remember, because the time will come when you will be talking to your CEO, to your manager. And before you ever prepare a presentation, make sure you understand what is it that whatever you want to do will provide to those people. Is it going to make their life easier? What is in it for them? Is it going to help them shine? Is it going to help them do more with less people? But you need to make sure that if you are simply presenting what you are doing without showing the result of what you are doing and how that will affect the organization, you will fail. And again, that's one of the most common problems that I see, which is why I have it as first one. Speak to the CEO and to the leadership in terms they relate to, in terms they care. Be a team player. As I mentioned before, in order to be a CEO, for the most part, you need to be able to leverage on the capability of your teams. I have never seen an organization where an individual can perform better than a team that is truly working together. So it is extremely important that you learn the best practices of how to work as a team. Working as a team is not simply to be able to sit together and talk. Working as a team is to be able to delegate functions, to have tasks, to make sure that every single person in that team understands that that little piece they are doing is extremely important for the rest to be completed. And if you understand that, you will start wanting to learn more about how to be efficient in a team environment. Because only when you are efficient in a team environment, you will get noticed by the top. Because they understand that is important. So you must be a team player. That also, of course, means dealing with conflict, etc., etc. But in a nutshell, be a team player. This one is extremely important. Lead from where you are. When you join the corporate world, you will find out that there are people leading teams and they are not the managers. You want to be one of them. And in order to be one of them, you must learn how to be a leader. Which is again why I encourage people so much to continue their education. And I will focus on that very much because I believe in it. Because if I didn't do it, I wouldn't be where I am today. One of the most difficult things to do is to lead when you are not the manager. But if you are the person who's taking charge, if you are the person who tells the team that you will help with the difficult tasks, if there is a problem and you say, okay, let me take the lead, I will choose 3 people in this group and we will try to find a solution. And then you find what you guys believe is the best solution and present it to the manager in terms that they will understand. Then you will likely be noticed. And if you constantly do it, not only will you be noticed by the leaders, you will be noticed by your peers, and you will start becoming a leader in that organization, an informal leader. And the good thing about being an informal leader is that they are quickly identified by the top management as the next leaders formally in the organization. So I can't stress enough the importance of always looking for solutions. Every time in your career, another advice, that you are going to present a challenge, always bring 2 or 3 solutions. They might not necessarily adopt the solutions, but they will know that you are thinking about how to resolve the problem, not just, I cannot do it, cannot. It cannot be like that. You know, we must identify solutions to be noticed. Do not be one more. Always be better. Be an expert. I can't stress this enough. One of the interesting things is that sometimes we work in a department like payroll, and your task is to make sure that the checks for everyone are printed. But payroll is a lot more than that. And if you're focusing only on the little area of responsibility that you have, you're not going to develop yourself. And if you only understand that little part, you cannot provide advice that will help the rest improve. So you need to become an expert. You need to always make sure that you make an effort to understand how what you do affects the others, how what the others do affects you, so that you can provide intelligent potential solutions to whatever challenges that you have. But one of the biggest problems we have, and this is reality, and I hope that you guys get these points today, do not focus only on what you're doing. Become an expert in your area of work. Be the person that people come and talk to. And always be willing to provide advice to those people. You will become an informal leader. You will be seen as an expert, and experts are noticed very fast. Not only are they noticed, but they become an integral part of the organization. You know, there are hard times in companies, and sometimes people do get laid off. The experts are not the ones that will be laid off. Be open to feedback. Another very important point. Sometimes, because of culture, because of many things, it's difficult for us to accept somebody coming and telling us what we did wrong. And I'm guilty of it. But with time and experience, one of the things that I have learned is that I have gained a lot more respect from people when I have understood that I make mistakes and that I'm willing to change to not make those mistakes again. Because today, in the work environment, we might not notice it, but in order for you to fix a problem, the first thing that you have to understand is that there is a problem. If you don't believe there is a problem, you cannot change it. So if you are a problem, or you have some challenges, and you are not willing to self-develop and to try to understand what you are not doing well, you are not going to be able to resolve that problem. And if you don't resolve those problems, you are not going to get noticed, and you are not going to grow. So it is important to understand and accept feedback, even in the cases when you disagree with them. I encourage you to always write down the feedback that you receive, and a week later, after emotions are down, you read it. And you have to touch your heart yourself and say, you know what, maybe I can do better. Because we always can do better. Do that, and it will be another fantastic thing to do, to be noticed. Again, when you make a mistake, own your mistake. It is human to make mistakes. Understand the company services. Again, same example I gave of payroll. You know, one of the most important things that we can do as professionals when we join an organization is to learn what the company actually does. What are the services this company provides? What are our clients' needs? Who are our clients? Because only if you truly understand that very clearly, you will be able to use your skills to get your department to help the overall end goal. It is impossible for you to provide valuable input to CEOs and to top management if you don't understand what the clients need and how the company is making money. It is extremely important that you never forget that fact. Communication, I've already touched on this. Again, read. If you can, get an MBA. If you can, take communication classes. While it sounds redundant, I cannot stress again the importance of being able to stand in a room and to communicate your ideas clearly to the leadership so that you get noticed, and to the team that works with you so that you get noticed, and to the people that report to you when you become a manager so they can understand what you want and follow it. If people don't know what you want, if people don't understand what you want, they cannot give you what you want. And this is key. Again, I mentioned a little bit of this. Actions. We need to take action, always. We need to see what's happening in the organization and be able to be the one who takes action to resolve problems. Whether that means you will call peers and tell your leader, I will be the person who manages this, and I will make sure that we come up with a solution for you. Always take action. CEOs want employees who are fearlessly loyal to them and their team. When you take action to resolve company problems, not only will it get noticed, but it will also show the team and the leaders that you care about the organization. So all these things together enable you to get noticed and move on in the organization. And I really wish somebody had told me this, because it has been a lot of hard lessons and a lot of studying and reading to give you these simple pointers that I'm giving you here. So, top tips for career success. The first one, some of them will be a little repetitive, but I put them here because they are that important. Number one, read. Read, read, read. Educate yourself. Do an MBA. Buy books. If you do not read, you don't take an advantage for those who don't or can't read. Talk about your mistakes. There's nothing more empowering than accepting mistakes. We just mentioned that, so I'm not going to go into that. Express your ideas correctly. Communication. Extremely important. So never forget the importance of learning that part. How to do presentations, hopefully better than mine. How to communicate. How to express your ideas. Energize others. Nobody wants boring people. That is true. Politically incorrect to say it, maybe, but nobody wants a leader that is, well, guys, you know, we need to sit. No, we want to be able to motivate people. We need to have energy and energize others, because if you believe in what you are doing, if you care in what you're doing, you will likely be able to pass that energy to others. People can catch on very quickly. You don't have to have all the answers, but you need to be able to communicate and make people understand that end goal. Guys, this is where we need to be. How are we going to achieve this together? Because when we achieve this together, we will have all these benefits. Now you get people excited. But if you are someone who cannot pace and is slow, it's very difficult. So you need to make an effort to communicate properly so that you will have the ability to get people high, excited. Always search for better ideas. I'm in technology. I'm all for innovation. But it's not just in technology. It is extremely important that you do not become in your career one of those people that, well, we do this because we have always done it this way. The moment that you fall into that category, you will be a very slow growing, if you grow at all, in the organization. So please do not become one of those people. You need to make sure that you're always and constantly looking for ways to improve whatever it is that you're doing and whatever it is that the environment around you is doing. Bringing ideas and presenting them in words that people understand is going to make a big difference in your career. This is an interesting one. You can't make change with rational behavior. What do I mean by that? Most people in many companies and internally talk about change. Everybody talks about change. We need to change. We're going to change. But the truth is that people are not making the changes that they are talking about. It all becomes nice spreadsheets and presentations and no action. So if there is one thing that I will advise you to do is that make sure that you as a professional are someone who embraces change, is willing to change, and is pushing for change to always improve. And as part of this is to always read what's happening in the industry in your area of expertise. Because by doing this, you will have extremely amazing information and ideas that will enable you to come up with fantastic solutions for your work that will help you get noticed. And again, I say that because, like I said, what the advice I'm giving you is the advice I wish somebody gave me to be noticed and to grow in an organization. because now we know how CEOs think. So we need to know how do we take that to our advantage, to shine, to grow professionally. Don't get comfortable. Do not sit there comfortable. Always keep learning. Always keep reading. Always keep providing solutions. Always be that person who wants to call the team and say, guys, I volunteer to gather this team to evaluate this challenge, and we'll come up with an idea. It might not always be approved, but you will be remembered. Always be that person. See everyone as a mentor. Very important to understand that every single person around us have had many different experiences that enable them to get to where they are today. Some of them we like, some of them we don't like. That's the truth. We're all human. But I assure you that if we listen carefully to these people, even when we don't agree with them as to why they want to do things in certain ways, there is a lot of learning that can be taken from it. Especially when you become leaders. You want to make sure that you understand that your team can mentor you. It's not only top-down. It's top-down, down-up, side-to-side. You can learn from every single person. You just need to pay attention. Grow your team. Extremely important. You will all hopefully follow this advice. You will all hopefully get a higher education. You will all hopefully be